And I think there's 3 people waiting in the chat,
All right.
which is awesome. But we're all here. We're all here. What's up?
Together.
Howdy, howdy.
Hello, everyone. If you're in the chat, say hello. Hit them
We
with
don't bite.
a ha hi. It is I. And you know, we're gonna get started right off the bat because we actually have some things that right afterwards. But we wanted to get to your questions. This is the patron specific Q&A where we answer questions relating to health and wellness as well as performance, all asked by our patrons and sometimes by our followers. Sorry, what was that?
Did you see the late ad from Abby?
What was that? The late ad?
Did you see the late question from Abby?
Nope, but we can answer it. We can
Ooh.
answer it.
It is one it's one we're gonna want to talk about.
Oh man, the Herman Miller X.
The Herman Miller X Logitech question.
Yeah, wow, that is a good question that we will get to.
We should open with that because it's so topical.
Yeah, it's almost like we should be creating some content about it because it's.
Oh wait, it's almost like we are creating some content about it.
Anyways,
but like just to let your appetite.
Yes,
Long
exactly.
story short, the kind of biggest overarching thing that we feel about it is Herman Miller has a reputation for good ergonomics for a reason. They put a lot of research into their products. They develop it with ergonomics and biomechanics in mind. And there are a lot of good features about this chair. At the same time, you do not need to spend $1,500 to get a sufficiently ergonomic chair.
Yeah, there's a lot of math that you can do with other chairs on the market to show you that it is maybe not worth the commitment unless you just have the money sitting by and you want to have a luxury chair.
Right.
You know, all of the...
So somebody in the focus group the other night actually did a really great... They called it a status symbol you can sit on.
Yep, exactly.
I love, because... Look, don't get me wrong. They absolutely have fantastic ergonomic qualities about the chair, but there are other chairs that will also have fantastic ergonomic qualities. And there's the fact that the chair isn't the be-all, end-all, and I'm not spoiling Matt's content, but you should definitely check that out when it goes live.
Yeah, I mean, all of it is actually pretty supported. I went through every single one of the features. You know, they even had on the seat cooling foam that has copper in it, but they don't say what the compression garments say, in that it's antimicrobial, it has all these other benefits. Instead, it is for what copper is typically used for in these type of situations, and that it helps to disperse heat, especially with, they have these like triple aerated layer on the seat that I think, you know, backed with science, it could actually work to help disperse heat if you're sitting on it for a long time. So anyways, there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the comment that we're going to be content that we're going to be releasing probably pretty soon.
Dude, if we release a comment in the end of the world, that probably would also go over fairly well right about now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree in that it is a luxury chair. Everything is pretty supported by evidence. And yeah, those are our thoughts. We'll get into more in-depth thoughts during the piece of content. But let's get to some of the questions that we received in this past month. The first one is going to be from Lamer_V5. And
I'm wondering if he's also a climber, seeing as he's got a V5 in his name.
Right. Climber. He's currently hitting V5s. He says, any fellow gamers out there deal with unnecessary hand and tensing only while aiming and shooting? Like while looting in BRs, Battle Royales, I feel fine, but as soon as I see someone, I death grip my mouse instinctively and end up missing a lot of shots. It's a mental thing. But I think there's some physical ergonomic stuff going on too. I think I'm not sitting well for aiming and without death gripping, so I overcompensate.
I really, really like that he considers the mental aspect of this, because he's absolutely right. This is essentially a startle response. The same way that, you know, you jump when you see somebody walk into your field of vision that you weren't paying attention to. You're jumping essentially just in game, and the form the jump takes is your hand moves real quick and you grip real tight. When you've got that kind of startle and stress response, you get like that load of adrenaline coursing through your system. It's pumping your heart rate up, pumping your blood pressure up. It affects your pupillary constriction and dilation. So all of these things that physically go into how well you're able to aim a shot. Just as a result of that kind of spike in emotion. And then in addition to that, you mentioned some ergonomic stuff going on. So let's break this down into the two parts and how we can address both of them.
Mm-hmm.
First, for the kind of mental component, there's definitely an extent to which you can train your brain to be able to better manage those like dumps of cortisol and adrenaline. The same way that, we train soccer players who take penalty kicks at the World Cup to be able to regulate their emotions, regulate the symptoms of their emotions, and therefore be able to aim just perfectly fine. That being said, you still see people miss PKs because, hey, if you aren't fully controlling your emotions, you can be the best player in the world, but physically speaking, but your game isn't going to be all the way there until you got the mental side down.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's really important that the same way you build in other aim training exercises, building your precision, building your accuracy, building your speed, that you're also doing exercises to improve your emotional regulation and your kind of stress response. So what kind of things improve your stress response? Well, overall, decreasing your total sense of stress with something like meditation, reading, journaling, whatever it is that you find relaxing is certainly a good place to start. That helps you decrease your kind of global general anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to managing those spikes of adrenaline and cortisol, though, one of the most effective ways to train your body to manage that is to put it in similar situations. And I don't just mean in games. One of the most similar situations you can put yourself in terms of getting a cortisol dump and then getting rid of it is exercise. Exercise does increase your cortisol levels temporarily, but your body learns, I don't need this anymore. I can clear this out. And so giving your body that response of cortisol goes up, I bring cortisol down will help you to manage and regulate kind of the physical symptoms of your emotion in game. But then also training to be less startled, to kind of head on a swivel, being really kind of perceptive, paying attention, using different kinds of cues. Maybe you have an easier time picking up on audio cues before you see visual cues. Maybe you have an easier time the other way around. The human eye was actually evolved to pick up motion against an immobile surface. That's one of the best ways that we have of knowing, oh shit, there's a lion coming at me out of this jungle. Lions don't do jungles. Safaris, plains. Lions are on plains.
And jungles, according to the Lion King. So.
Yeah, I don't know that we can take that as an accurate biological resource, unfortunately. But yes, backdrop of non-moving thing and then suddenly moving thing, your brain does respond to that very quickly. So putting yourself in those situations to practice in low stress environments, just little scrims with friends, hopping in the sandbox kind of deal, and then adding in, that mental toughness training, that meditation or journaling or whatever activity you find to be good emotional regulation for you, and then adding in some exercise because that is going to help you manage the cortisol dumps. And then the physical ergonomic stuff. I really like that point too. You bring up a really good and really relevant point, right? You feel like you don't have enough stability due to your posture, so you're death gripping your mouse so that you do have enough stability or perceive you have enough stability. And that makes sense because in order to have mobile extremities, you need a stable base. And that stable base doesn't just have to start from your hand and your wrist. If you give yourself that better stable base starting from your butt and your feet, you're going to be in a better position to not have to death grip your mouse in order to feel stable. So your stable base starts from where you're rooted. Excuse me, I scarfed down dinner in 5 minutes before this, so I'm probably going to burp a lot.
It's my fault.
Feet should be planted on the floor, and butt should be planted in your chair. Feet should be planted on the floor has an asterisk next to it because you may not be able to tell, but right now I'm currently sitting cross-legged. That's because I shift position frequently, which is a good thing to do. So whatever position you are in, make sure it's one where your hips are rooted and you've kind of got points of connection with your chair that are solid. So perched on the edge of your chair, not the most solid. Settled back in your chair using your backrest, much more solid and stable. Once you've kind of got that butt stability, your hips planted, then you want to look at where's your core at. And I'm not saying that you have to be doing, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 push-ups, and 10 kilometers a day to have the core of a champion. But that it's better to do something like back is upright and supported than back is slouched and supported. Back upright means you've got kind of more surface area in contact, which means better base of support. Then you want to look at what's going on with your arms. If I had no arm rests whatsoever, my my elbow would be unsupported here. And in order to brace for stability, in order to brace to have my fingers moving easily, I'd need to tighten up through here. That fatigues the arm the same way that what you're doing fatigues your hand. So instead, I make sure that my armrests are level with my desk height, which is also level with my belly button, because that's an easy, comfortable place for your arms to rest at your sides. And then I've got this base not just for my butt and my hips and my core, but also for my shoulder and my elbow. So all of this is supported, and my wrist can do all the moving. It doesn't have to do any bracing in the process. So let's recap that. 1, start with your stable base. Get your butt planted in your chair, get something underneath your arms, make sure that things are supported so your muscles don't have to do the work of stabilizing. 2, incorporate some exercise so your body learns to regulate and deal with cortisol and kind of emotional dumps. 3, put yourself in situations where you're practicing that stress response and actively, consciously focusing on managing it. Your focus in those moments is not, I'm going to aim precisely. Your focus in those moments is, I'm going to bring down my heart rate and my breathing rate right now. Then you'll be able to transition into using that functionally in the act of shooting and aiming it.
Yeah. I would say I agree with every single one of those points. And I would just add that a lot of the times with those type of situations, specifically in BRs, if you're going from looting until you see someone maybe on the edge of zone and then you need to take a fight, there's a lot of immediate thoughts that go through your head. So when Kate says that you can journal, you can meditate, you can take some time to actually think through what happens during that situation, because a lot of the times we unconsciously process all these fears, these thoughts. I'm gonna lose. The game is gonna end for me, so I have to queue over again and have to wait all the way and loot all this good stuff that I have, and then I might not even survive again. We have all these fears that, distract us, but also get you nervous, push forward that cortisol response, that stress response, that make you want to death grip the mouse a little more. And if you take the time to journal and meditate, that will help you understand this thought process a little better. You can realize, hey, that's maybe a thought that I don't really even need to think about because it's not helpful. You're able to step back and identify and take a look at all of the thoughts that you're having, and then you have the power to choose what you think. You can direct what you think in that situation. So when Kate says, hey, you need to repeatedly expose yourself to some of those situations, whether it be with your friends or you just practice a couple more times, exposing yourself to a situation where you do see someone, and then when you do get stressed, you already went through the thought exercise. Hey, well, I don't really need to worry too much about this because it's not something that should be stressing me. I just either need to take the fight or I don't. And It will give you a lot more confidence and less wanting to grab and death grip the mouse. And this is definitely such a common thing, obviously not only in BRs, but I think the death grip is super common in a game like Smash, right? Everyone knows the death grip, and it's reported a lot more in a competitive or tournament related situation. At home, when you're just practicing, it's not really reported that often, but hey, if it becomes a close game, I noticed that I'll death grip. And again, it's about understanding what's the situation at hand. Do I need to have all these fears and thoughts and concerns associated with the situation of it being a close game, or because it's the tournament environment? Does the game change at all? Most of the time the answer is no, but understanding that thought process helps you deal with that stress a little better.
And when we're talking about things like journaling, we're not saying in the moment write down everything you're thinking. We're talking about time away from the game, when you are like in a non-emotional state, when you're feeling nice and relaxed and chill. Stop and think back and kind of reprocess those emotions so that when they crop up, in that more in the moment situation, you can be like, oh yes, I recognize this emotion. It is not bothering me.
Exactly.
I definitely get the same way when it comes to like when I'm raiding and we're in like, the last 1 to 2% of a boss kill that we haven't gotten yet. Yeah, absolutely. I feel similarly tight. But a lot of times what I'll try and do is I'll channel that more into my core. So I'll tighten up here so that the base, which is supposed to be stable, becomes even more stable. And that does often mean that I need to stop and take some deep breaths after we're done because I've kind of inhibited my breathing a bit. But I've left my arms free to move. I've left my fingers free to move. And so I'm still kind of getting that tension, like that that makes me feel intense and in the moment. but not in a way that interferes with my ability to play.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. All
So,
right.
Lamer, V5, I hope you learned a lot from that. We're going to move on to the next question. We have it from Jay Venom, who's a incoming collegiate Overwatch player, which is awesome to hear. And
I
this is so great because sorry,
I
what?
absolutely love like that we're going to be having like classes of esports athletes described as the incoming. I'm the incoming Overwatch freshman. Like
Yeah,
we
exactly.
talk about incoming soccer freshman. Like
I'm
holy shit,
actually
this
so
is so
happy
cool.
about that. You know,
All right, carry on.
and just the type of question he asks gets me really excited about the future for gaming because
Yeah.
it just means that this all future and upcoming gamers are more conscious about their health. So, Jay
So
Venom
let me read this
asks,
one so
"Oh,
that
sorry, what?
because I have to hop off
Oh, got
as
it. Yeah, yeah.
told. But let me read this question because it's a good one. So we've got Venom, who's an incoming collegiate Overwatch player, who writes, I want to improve and prolong my gaming career. Currently, I am in the process of choosing a workout and nutrition plan to help me build muscle and get into better shape. I wanted to know what kind of program should I look for that will also have a positive result for gaming. I have the option to choose plans that focus on muscle building, weight loss, strength gain, getting fit, and performance. So Matt, I'm going to hand that over to you. Y'all have a lovely night.
All right. Thanks, Kate. All right, let me just move myself to the center of the screen so that, we're here. Boom! It's me. What's up, Jay Venom? I think the number one thing that you need to ask yourself is what is the most important for you? Do you want to gain mass? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain strength? Or do you want a mix of those? Do you want to gain lean mass? Do you want to work towards performance? Understanding exactly what you want to work towards with your physical health is going to guide all of your decisions afterward with exercise programming and nutrition programming. So you need to ask yourself that first and understand what is going to be best for me. I would say in general for gaming, it's best to, hey, you got to definitely work up your overall lean mass. You got to pretty much the get fit and performance option is a good plan to choose because you will probably get a little more lean mass from exercising a little more, being more familiar with a lot of compound and accessory movements. Two, you will probably and hopefully include some cardiovascular training within that because that's been shown to help with cognitive function and executive function. A lot of the things that we need when we are playing our respective game, especially in a game like Overwatch where there's a lot of things going on at once and we have to process a lot of things at the same time. So I would say ideally you would choose something along the lines of getting fit and performing, which translates to probably working, doing some resistance training, getting a little more lean mass, because there was that study that just got released indicating that we have a little more body fat as gamers, but we know that with our lifestyle, so we need to address that sort of lifestyle issue and consequence. Secondly, I think, as you know, diet is a pretty key component with all of this. What you select, if you do want to gain a little more lean mass, will definitely influence your diet. So whoever you are choosing to work with at your local college, I would seek out some guidance there. We can obviously be of help to you to help you design something based on your history with nutrition, based on what you've done before with diet, so that we can gradually work you towards achieving what you want, but also not overwhelming you, because a lot of the times when you seek out counsel or help from a nutrition expert, you're just given a plan and expected to just adopt all of it at once. And I think we are overzealous in nature sometimes as coaches, in that we just expect everyone to just pick up things and go. And while there are some individuals that are able to do that, it's not sustainable. So find someone that will work with you, that understands your lifestyle, and will implement a diet that works specific to you, specific to your gaming, specific to what you're going to be doing for exercise. Like I said, also in my response for Discord, I think it's really important for you to have, if this is your first time starting to exercise, a full body program, probably 2 to 3 times a week. You don't need to do any more than that in your initial phase of training, because there will only be marginal benefits. There's going to be some neural adaptations that need to occur before you get the full benefits of going at a high volume. They've also shown that there's not a big difference of going 3 weeks or 3 times a week versus 6 times a week for beginners as they're entering or beginning to train for improving their fitness or improving their strength or improving their health across various metrics. I also think it's a really good idea when you're working with this new trainer of yours to get a baseline. You need to identify where you're at with your cardiovascular health, where you're at with your general strength across different things, how your current understanding of movement, so that they know where to start you from. I know it sounds like a lot, but hopefully the person that you're working with can make it stepwise in nature for you, starting easy, not trying to overload you with 50 million movements, just keeping it simple in the beginning. I always think it's beneficial to do cardiovascular training specific to gaming, or cardiovascular training, because as I mentioned, it's helpful for us as gamers. I would add some interval training at the end, whether it be on the bike, running, stairmaster, rowing, and just doing sort of 1 minute at a running or hard working pace, and then 1 to 2 minutes at a walking or slower recovery pace, and then repeating that to really push your cardiovascular system and your metabolic or your energy systems a little more. And you'll just notice over time, as you are consistent with this, that you'll just have more energy throughout the day, because you can think of all your systems getting a little more efficient, so that when you're sitting there, your consumption of energy is a lot less than if you did not exercise. You consume a lot more HP, right, when you're just sitting there. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, and I'm not sure if you're in the chat or not, but if you have any follow-up questions, I'm here to answer for you. Second, or last question we have from Kaisawa. A few weeks ago, I experienced some mild discomfort and decided to switch to holding my mouse straight and lightly reduce computer usage. But then after 2 weeks of that, I started to experience more pain. So you rested, you felt more pain. That was worse at night, and then mostly have been resting and bracing for the past week to recover. The night pain has now gone away. And then revisiting some of my articles, or maybe other articles, you thought that maybe straightening your mouse grip caused you to unconsciously bend your wrist towards your pinky like this, since you keep your elbow 5 inches away from your torso, which is possibly true, but just a theory, right? First of all, I'm glad that you decided to be proactive and look for potential ergonomic changes to address some of the symptoms that you're dealing with and having. I think it's a definitely good start. But if you weren't tilted towards the pinky excessively in the beginning like this, then changing that to make this maybe from like a slight tilt to this may not have made a big difference. And as you saw, it just got worse. And what you did was rest, which, as I've mentioned quite a few times before, for gaming and tendon-related injuries, it does not help for long-term relief, because the tissues get weaker. The muscle tendon complex gets weaker. The connections up the chain through your elbow and your shoulder, those don't work as well. The nerves aren't able to send signals to those muscles as well. So rest does not help with long-term relief. It just helps to temporarily manage pain. What I always suggest is doing sort of the big three things that you got to look at to see if you can address those underlying issues as it relates to your pain. It's, as we know now, it's probably not your posture and ergonomics, because despite your rest, when you did change it, it seemed to not help at all. You still get the pain after returning to a little more play. Second thing that you should definitely be looking at is your wrist and hand conditioning, which a lot of the times is the underlying issue. You don't have the endurance, you don't have the strength or endurance in these muscles here when you're moving the mouse. So I give a lot of exercises in a lot of my videos that strengthen these muscles, so that you can tolerate long hours of gaming without causing the tendons here to become inflamed or irritated. That means you have to start doing exercises on a regular basis. But that also means you have to pay attention to number 3, which is your schedule. Because even if you do exercises and then go back to playing 8 hours a day, you're still going to be overloading this tendon. It doesn't mean you have to stop playing completely, but it just means reducing it to the point where your tissues can still handle the stress and get stronger, right? So you're going to be, maybe if you were playing 5 hours before, you taper that off to about 2 to 3 hours, but add exercises so that overall you're strengthening it, you're still able to play, and you might actually feel a little bit more pain in the beginning because you're still loading this up. But as long as it's not sharp or over 3 to 4 out of 10 and lasting the entire duration of the day after you're gaming, then that's okay. It's okay to have pain, especially with tendon which is the most common gaming related injury. So as a quick review, Kaisawa, what you need to do is start doing some exercises to build up your tolerance to repeated stress at your muscles along your forearm. If the pain is here, you're going to be doing exercises where you bring your wrists up to strengthen this. Look at some of my videos on my YouTube so you can build up the tissue strength there. The 9-minute wrist warrior routine and the 6-minute post stretching routine is helpful, so you can do some of the stretches between your games and then do a strengthening routine maybe 2 times in a row of the 9-minute routine in the morning. Or you can even look specifically into the Fortnite pain pattern guide that gives exercises based on where you feel it. So is it here? Is it here? Is it here? There's a bunch of different exercises and stretches that I provide in those videos that help address specific injuries. Then lastly, I would have to consider your schedule. You need to make sure that you're not overdoing it, even though you're starting to exercise more, and listen to your body. If it's more than a 3 to 4 out of 10, then you probably did a little bit too much that day, and I would taper it down a little bit the next day. You don't have to completely stop. You can still use your wrist and hand, but you still have to taper it off a little bit to make sure that you're not overloading. So it's not true rest. It's more partial rest or reducing the load a little bit. If you have follow-up questions, again, I'm here to answer those if you want, or if you have any questions. Please let me know. If you check this out and have questions later, you can definitely reach out to me in our Discord, and I can provide you with a little more specific guidance. But thank you for asking those questions. Hopefully this was helpful in nature to help you better understand how to approach this type of situation. And yeah, that is all, everyone. This will be live for everyone to see as soon as the stream ends, which